Hi, my name's Ashley, and I am with Rainier Avenue Radio Live. We are here today with a special guest from Earshot Jazz Festival, Eugenie Jones. Eugenie Jones is a national recording artist and jazz vocalist from Seattle, Washington, and she is a woman who is described to have a voice that covers words like pieces of silk covering precious stones. And we are here talking with Eugenie today because we are nearing the end of the Earshot Jazz Festival. It has lasted from October 16th to November 8th, and it's all been completely virtual. So, hi Eugenie, how you doing today?
Hello, Ashley. I'm doing well.
Awesome.
Meeting
How
you
has your
Saturday.
right? How has your experience of the Earshot Jazz Festival been so far?
Well, it's certainly been different than prior years. As you've mentioned, it's been 100% virtual this year. And my performance was recorded at Langston Hughes Performance Art Institute. And there was no audience, so my band was there, sound recording people were there, and video, but we're basically singing to empty chairs. And whenever you're in a live experience, you're connecting with people. Their eyes meet yours, they hear your words, they get it, they're keeping time with the music, and there's this reciprocal relationship that's established in your performance. But these types of performances, that's not there because you're just singing to a camera. But I did my best to try and pretend people were there, even though they weren't there with me at the time of the recording.
Since you were recording in a live venue, what was the COVID-19 sort of precautions sort of like?
Yes, so we had, of course, we had to wear masks as we enter, comparable to your experience when you go to a restaurant, your mask as you enter, and when you get to your destination, you can unmask. In this instance, though, the drummer remained behind a plexiglass partition, and the piano player and bass player had to remain masked. I was the only one that wasn't masked, but there was no one in front of me, in close proximity of me. So I was able to at least not have to wear a mask through the performance. And then we had our temperatures checked as we walked in to do the recording. So precautions were taken to try and keep everybody as safe as possible.
That's good. Aside from the coronavirus pandemic affecting the Earshot Jazz Festival as a whole, how has it affected you personally since you are a recording artist? Like, what's it like not having concerts all the time?
Yes, it's been difficult. It's been difficult because your music is a form of your expression, and it's cathartic for you as an artist to be able to create and release that creation and share those experiences with people. So that has been totally wiped away by COVID for the most part. There are no live music performances going on at all. And even for the artists that are trying to maintain some semblance of remaining viable, recorded versions of you playing your piano at home are not quite the same thing. So, but that's really the next phase as to what we're trying to discover. That famous book, Who Moved the Cheese, or who moved my cheese? That's what we're trying to do as artists. We're trying to find the cheese and figure out what's the new paradigm for us in order to continue the work that we love and have enjoyed doing for such a long time. So that's where I think I am. I've lost a lot of performances that were scheduled as far as a year in advance, and they were all canceled. And my last live performance, I think, was March of this year. Yeah, so a lot has changed.
It's crazy how long it's been.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
So, with the Earshot Jazz Festival, you were on a panel specifically about the impacts of coronavirus on Black jazz and blues musicians. Since you were
Right.
one of the panelists, what have you learned from others' experiences during the coronavirus?
Well, the African American experience is unique in that the prism of racism exists in every industry that you're engaged in. And so Black artists are automatically being booked less and being given the same level of exposure that other artists would be given. And as a result, when we are already at the lower end of the spectrum and then we lose even more through COVID, we're impacted even more so.
It's just so heartbreaking. What would you say would like help benefit you? Like, what sort of resources can we give to help support artists like yourself? Would you like me to repeat the question for you?
I'm sorry, did you just lose me?
Just for a second, yeah.
Okay, can you snip that back together or should I?
Oh, no, it's totally fine. We can work with it. It
Okay,
happens.
okay, all right. I'm sorry. I don't know what happened. I was like, I was there and then I wasn't.
It's to be expected in radio. Would you
Okay.
like to repeat the last bit, or would you like me to ask you a new question?
Can we start over? Because I'm not even sure where I was
Oh,
in that explanation.
oh yeah, no problem. Just
Okay.
start over the full recording, or start over just.
No, no, just that question, that last question that we were answering about
All
the
right.
what's the experience?
Okay, so
Uh,
since you were on a panel about impacts of coronavirus with affecting Black jazz and blues musicians, what have you learned from those musicians, like that you didn't go through yourself?
right. Well, some of the experiences that were being shared, we're talking about how this impacts African American artists because we're already getting less bookings and less exposure. And so when you're at the lower end of the spectrum and you're already getting less, and then something like this comes along and moves that spectrum even further away from everyone, it's impactful to artists, but it's impactful to everyone that loves what they do and they're no longer being able to have afforded the opportunity to do that. What's really difficult too is that a lot of people, this is their sole source of income. They're 100% full-time musicians, vocalists, whatever the case may be, and their income has been completely displaced by COVID. Fortunately for myself, my undergrad and graduate degrees are in marketing. I have a career steeped in marketing, and I have a full-time job right now, and my husband is employed as well. So our family has continued to be able to support itself while a lot of other families have lost their income, and those are the families that I feel for, and that we've tried to do our small part to reach out to people like that.
So when it comes to coronavirus and this lack of support, like what can we do as like audience members to help support you guys? Like, is there a fund? Is there sort of some like foundation we can help donate to?
Well, there are some organizations that are collecting funds for artists. And I would say just Google and look for those organizations and do your homework to make sure that they're valid and that you check on the distribution side of the house to make sure that the money is being distributed fairly and equitably to all artists.
Awesome. And just for those now tuning in, you're listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world. I am your host, Ashley Stenger, and today I am talking with national recording artist and iconic jazz vocalist, Eugenie Jones. We are talking about the recent Earshot Jazz Festival that is happening all virtually due to coronavirus. And Eugenie, you have a history with the Earshot Jazz Festival. How have you seen it change over the years, especially going from in-person to virtual?
Yes. So I believe my first performance with the Earshot Jazz Festival was I was at the SAM and in conjunction with the festival. And my performance there was the first time I had been engaged with it. What I've seen over the years is that the festival has broadened its national scope. It's broadened its availability. I mean, it used to be, a week, and I think they're up to a month now. So they have a month long of activities, events going on in order to engage and inform people. And it's not just about music. They're having these interesting conversations between artists. And so it's become a more diversified platform and a broader reaching platform. And I applaud them for the efforts that they're making.
What would you say is like your favorite part of experiencing the festival? Is it the music? Is it the panels? Like, what's your personal favorite?
My personal favorite is when I get to perform. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
It's all about me. But I mean, I'm an artist. I'm a performer. I love to perform. So when I have a chance to do that, that's great. So
for those who don't know, have you performed this year at Earshot Jazz? Is there any way we can see your performance?
absolutely, my performance was recorded at Langston Hughes, and it was aired, I believe, the 25th of this month. But it is. I think you can still see it, but if you can't still see it through Earshot, I will be uploading it onto my YouTube channel, and it will be available there, I'd say, in another couple of weeks.
Beautiful.
So if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, go subscribe so that you can check out that and other videos.
Let's talk about you specifically as a performer now. So what would you say has created your love and your drive in order to create jazz music?
I would would say that initially when I first got involved in jazz, it was basically answering the question of, I lost my mom, and she had been someone who I grew up listening to sing all the time and around the house and in church choirs. And when I lost her to cancer, I found myself asking the question, I wonder if I could carry on that part of her, that singing part of her. And, I can recall as a child listening to her while she was in the kitchen making bread, and she would just start humming something. And I would ask, Mom, what's that song? Because that's so pretty. And she would say, nothing, that's something I just made up in my head. And so I stored all those little memories in my mind. And when I lost her and I realized that I missed hearing her sing, I wanted to know if I could carry on that part of her. It began to make sense when I started developing as an artist where this all came from, my songwriting, my singing, my love. So it came initially as a way to connect and continue the legacy of my mom and my love connection that I had with her. But ultimately, it mushroomed into a tool that allowed me to reveal another part of myself that I didn't even know existed, and allowed me to have another opportunity to express my thoughts and my feelings and my emotions through this catalyst of jazz. And so I'm very grateful because of that, because I've always been engaged in some form of writing and expression, and it has given me a new platform for allowing me to do that. And it's very fulfilling for me.
Looking into your biography, you came up as a jazz performer, like here in Seattle. How would you describe like the Seattle jazz scene as a whole? Like, what do you love about it?
At the time when I was entering the scene, we're talking about 2011, and there were vocal jams available in Seattle. Now, of course, we couldn't do anything like that, but at that time, there was a pretty vibrant vocal jazz scene going on where we could go to jams, and there were wonderful musicians there and other vocalists there, and you collaborate, still sharp and still, surrounding yourself around people who are very gifted and trying to hone their craft, and it encourages you to do the same. And through those experiences, it helped me develop and figure out this world of jazz, because I didn't grow up as a jazz artist. I didn't grow up even as a soloist or of any other kind of music either. I basically became exposed to this realization that I could do this when I was here in Seattle as an adult. And so those opportunities to more or less flesh out who I was as a performer happened here in Seattle. And so I'm grateful for that. There's some really talented artists here, and they're very good at what they do. And you can't help but learn from being around people like that.
Speaking, you were just talking about other artists here in Seattle. At the Earshot Jazz Festival, like, who have you been watching? Like, who are you learning from? Who are you enjoying watching that's in the jazz scene now?
I haven't really been engaged in what they've been offering this particular year. I have a full-time job, but in addition to that, I've just become president of a music discovery center here in Bremerton. It's a fledgling 501(c) that I'm foundationally engaged in every aspect of getting a 501(c), of establishing a board, policies and procedures. So all of that in conjunction with a full-time job, in conjunction with my family, I just haven't had time to tune in. But in the past, I've tuned in to check out some of the national artists that they've brought in to perform. And so, as I said, I think that they're doing a good job in terms of offerings that they've been able to provide for us in the Seattle area.
It sounds like you've been a really busy woman. You're starting a music discovery center?
Well, not me by myself, but a group of people here in Kitsap County. We're starting a nonprofit called Music Discovery Center in an area that's been named Quincy Square, because Quincy Jones actually lived here in Bremerton when he was a young boy. His father moved here to work in the shipyards from Chicago. And so Quincy, the story is that he discovered a piano here in a boys and girls center, and that's what began his exploration in the world of music. Later, he moved to Seattle and went to school over there, but his legacy started here in Bremerton. And so the Music Discovery Center is a new nonprofit as a nod ahead to Quincy Jones, who was here as a child, and also to us as our community, in an effort to be able to offer music instruction and teaching and just various things for the community that want to have musical experiences, people who want to have musical experiences, either as audience members or as artists growing and learning in the field.
So speaking of how you're teaching to basically a younger generation to learn to appreciate music, what advice would you give to up and coming like jazz artists? Like what would you want them to learn? Mistakes you've made, like achievements you've made, what do you want them to take with them in terms of learning to appreciate jazz?
Well, in terms of appreciating jazz, if they're wanting to have a career in it, I would caution them that it is not an easy road, that it is very challenging and it's very extremely competitive. And one of the most important tools that they should possess is confidence in their abilities, and also be figuring out a path of how to improve their abilities and to get better at what they're doing. I personally believe whether you're in jazz or any other aspect of your life, you should constantly be in this flux of evaluating what went right with that experience, what went wrong, how can I be better the next time. So that would be my recommendation to them, is to be confident about who they are as an artist, to constantly be honing their craft, and to be constantly looking at ways to get better, and to surround themselves with people that are encouraging them to do their best, because we are influenced by our circle, by the sphere of people that are around us. And so we have to be careful about who we let inside that sphere, that they are people that are of quality, and don't work with people who aren't kind to you or who aren't respectful of you. And always try to surround yourself with positive people that can encourage you to do what is very difficult and challenging to do.
Just to let everyone know who is just now turning in, I am talking with Eugenie Jones. She is a national recording artist and jazz vocalist, and she is a part of the Earshot Jazz Festival this year. And you are a two-time winner of the Golden Ear Award here at Earshot Jazz. What was it like? You won the 2013 NW Recording of the Year, and you won the 2015 NW Vocalist of the Year. What was it like winning those awards?
Well, you know, when you're, whatever career you're in, you're always wanting to kind of build up your treasure chest that validates who you are as a performer, or as an artist, or as an accountant, or as a lawyer, or whatever the case may be. And these awards validated to an extent my abilities to the outside world. I'm no different in terms of my ability to write or perform than I was before I won these awards. But for people that are looking as to whether or not, do I want to listen to this person? Do I want to talk to them? Do I want to check out their show? If they have a familiarity with Earshot, then it becomes a kind of a connect the dots, a sense of validation. Okay, they've won the Earshot Award, they can't be all that bad. Let me go check them out. So, you know, it becomes something of a measurement for people to use as a common theme that they can recognize and say, okay, maybe I will enjoy this performance with her, or maybe I'll give her a chance. If she was Vocalist of the Year, she must be okay. So it helped validate me, and it helped give me greater exposure in the Seattle community. But in all honesty, it didn't open any doors for me that I didn't push to make open for myself. And a lot of the opportunities that I've had as an artist and a performing artist have been opportunities that I created for myself. So it's a good thing to be able to be acknowledged by your peers. But if you didn't win that award and you were up for it, does it mean that you're not an excellent performer, or that you're not an excellent artist or musician, or whatever the case may be? Absolutely, positively not. It just means that in this particular instance, more people voted for you than they did for somebody else. And whatever the case may be, you still have to work hard to hone your craft and be a good performer, and to take yourself to the next stage, the next level of where you're trying to go.
So summing that up, that's basically saying how even though you're getting praised by your peers, like you still need to find that innate sort of energy to find pride in yourself. Like when you're performing, how do you find that innate sense of just like pride and joy? Like, what does that feel like for you?
It's interesting that you ask that, because I think when I'm performing, that exudes, because I am so happy for the occasion to be able to share my songs and my stories and how they came to be, and what they say about my life and what they say about other people's lives. And sometimes it's an encouraging story, and sometimes it's a story about heartbreak, or sometimes it's a story about, you know, passion and love. And I share those experiences with my listeners, and they join me for this ride, and I'm thrilled by that opportunity. I'm happy about it. So that comes across in my performance and my connection to the people I'm performing for. And so I think that's why people enjoy my performances, and I think certainly it's why I enjoy doing what I do.
So since you're an artist, I feel like there should be time for like some shameless like self-plugging. Like, please tell me, like, for people who don't know, like, what is your repertoire? I've heard you do covers, I've heard you do originals. Like, what are some of the pieces you are the most proud of, and where can people listen to them?
So thus far, I've released 2 CDs. My first CD, A Good Day, I'm sorry, A Good Day is on there, but it's called Black Lace and Blue Tears. And that was released in 2013. It's available digitally for download, and it's also available to order physical copies. All you have to do is Google my name, and you'll see multiple sources of where to get that music. My second CD, Come Out Swingin', which was primarily a swing CD, is also available through those same resources, and my YouTube channel has those cuts on it as well. Both of my CDs are primarily original music. And you see more and more artists doing original music now, vocal music, but at the time when I released my 2011 CD, there wasn't a whole lot of that happening. Vocalists have traditionally been expected to do covers. That's what we do. But there's only so many ways you can do all of me, you know, and it's not your own personal story. When you are writing a song, you're talking about your own personal experiences, your own take on it. So you can sing with greater emotional connection to that, and that demonstrates when you perform it as well, as opposed to just singing a song that has no personal connection to you. So my music, I think, is differentiated by the fact that it's primarily original music, it's contemporary storylines, but it's laid on a foundation of straight ahead jazz.
How can we watch you perform this live right now during COVID?
Yes, that. So I was in the Bellevue Jazz and Blues Festival, and those videos are up online now. So that's a recent one. As I said, the Earshot one will be available on my YouTube channel, I'd say in the next couple of weeks or so. And we're also working on the Jackson Street Jazz Walk and trying to figure out a way to make it happen virtually this year too. So prayerfully that'll come through, and there'll be some videos available to be seen with that, and I'd say like late December.
And for those of you who don't know, the Jackson Street Jazz Walk, how would you describe that? Just go ahead and promote it? Yeah.
Well, the Jackson Street Jazz Walk is basically, it's a tip of the hat to the legacy of Jackson Street in central Seattle, that area that was known for being a hub of jazz through the 20s, 30s, and so up until the late 50s. There was a thriving jazz community in central Seattle. And Quincy Jones is known for being a part of that thriving community, as well as Ernestine Anderson, Ray Charles, other big names floated through there and performed. So the Jackson Street Jazz Walk is basically commemorating that legacy of Central Seattle. And at the same time, it's giving opportunities to local artists to be seen and be heard through this jazz walk. In the past years, we've had venues up and down Jackson Street act as venues, restaurants, dance studios, in various locations. And people have been able to come for free, no charge. And the cover was to make a donation towards Northwest Harvest. So we did a food drive for Northwest Harvest in conjunction with presenting this jazz walk. And that's wonderful, because it's like, there's so much work associated with pulling off an event like this, as you can imagine. So if in the back of your mind, you're thinking, I'm doing this for a good cause, it makes the work so much easier to push your way through. And so the Jazz Walk had 12 to 15 different bands performing over the course of 2 days. Lots of people from the community coming out and participating, able to make substantial donations to Northwest Harvest. And so it was a good thing all the way around for so many reasons. And so now we're shifting gears once again. Who moved my cheese, and where is it, and how am I going to find it? We're working on that for the Jackson Street Jazz Walk and figuring out a new way to present it within this new culture of COVID.
Since music is the overarching theme of this entire conversation, how do you think music like brings people together, makes them stand up in the face of adversity during COVID? Like what is the powerful thing about music that causes it to do that?
Yeah. Well, you know, music is a universal language, regardless of the words being people to be understand whether words are being said or not. Maybe it's not in your language, but you hear the sounds and you can feel the emotion, and it's a commonality of bonding among human beings. It lifts us, it inspires us, and it helps us feel better in the course of our day. I mean, when we're feeling down, we push play, you know, and that music is there to entertain and comfort and give us solace. But I would remind the people that are out there listening, that are pushing play, that music didn't just appear there in and of itself. Someone had to invest their time, energy, talent, and most of all, their money for sound studios, for hiring artists, for promotion, et cetera, to create that music. So do your part in helping support the artists that you're listening to. Buy their music, you know, pay to go and see their virtual performances, and give them the means to continue doing what they're doing.
All right. I feel like that is a great note to end it on. And I want to say thank you, Eugenie Jones, for joining us here on Rainier Avenue Radio.world. We have been talking with Eugenie Jones about the Earshot Jazz Festival. And if you missed this, you will be able to see it on our Facebook page and our YouTube page. So be sure to check it out and check out the rest of Eugenie Jones's work. We appreciate it.
I just want to say real quick, Ashley, if you don't mind, eugeniejones.com. I forgot to say that. So if they want to find me, just eugeniejones.com, they can find me.
Beautiful. And to Rainier at eugeniejones.com. Her work is beautiful. So everyone will completely love it. And thank you for joining us here today, Eugenie.
Thank you, Ashley. I enjoyed it. Appreciate it.
Glad.